Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're finally going to talk about the 𝙤𝙬 E36. There's a lot to cover in this video, so stay tuned. Talk about this car, we do have some business to take care of. So first things first, I gotta go get the Duramax registered, and then I do want to go to my storage, pick up the M3 and drive that around for a little bit because I've almost forgotten that I own that car. I need to remind myself that E36s are not that bad. It's just this one that's giving me all the problems. Alright, so we got a clean title. I'm gonna go put this thing in my name. Luckily, the previous owner paid the registration fees, so all I should have to do is pay to have it transferred into my name. Because if you guys have not registered a diesel, especially in California, it is a ton of money. And on top of that, I've just spent a ton of money this month trying to get this thing dialed in. We'll talk about the white car, we'll talk about the M3, and we might talk about the other car. Alright, after a couple $100 later, we are officially legal with the Duramax. Officially in my name, California smog is a total pain in the ass. So this is my first legal daily in a good 6 months, so it feels good. Alright, so I'm back. Finally, I've got this car home. It was dead. I haven't driven it in so long that the battery did die. So I haven't driven this car. I got a jump, and I went and drove this car around. Took some photos, so check them out on Instagram because I'm sure by the time this video comes out, I'll have some of those posted up. But I mean, while we're giving updates, not much has changed with this car, and really I don't plan on anything changing with this car anytime soon. Really, it's just all minor and minuscule stuff, especially after building the white car. This car is just the culmination of all just crazy detailed specific work. So everything on this will be pretty much minor cosmetic or mechanical improvements over the course of however long it takes, because I have no rush on this car and no intention of getting rid of it anytime soon. It's just like my forever car, so I want everything on this car to be absolutely perfect. But again, there's no timeline on that kind of thing, so as far as what's going to happen next, I'm really not sure. There's no like big summer plan for this car. The main thing is to get the white car out of the garage, get the other car that I will reveal at some point in the garage, and kind of get that thing running and driving, and then this thing will see some attention. Anyways, I now want to update you on Ernie, the 𝙤𝙬 E36 project. If you guys have followed along, this car has become the biggest headache, the biggest nightmare, and it has just fought me every step of the way. I think that is mainly because this is my first full-on build, so things are bound to go wrong, but this car has just been kicking my ass. So the manifold is off this car yet again. I mean, this manifold has been off 4 or 5 times in the last month. This car has a serious oil leak that I have not been able to find. I seriously cannot diagnose it. I have tried literally everything that I can think of. I have had friends come out here and try and figure it out with me. It's super frustrating, and I don't want to continue spending money on the car until this is at least figured out. I need to figure out where the oil is coming from. I am okay with doing anything it takes to get this repaired. God forbid the engine has to come back out, but you know, if it does, it does. That's fine. I'm mainly frustrated because I cannot figure out where the oil leak is coming from. Right, so we got the manifold off. I've done this oil filter housing a ton of times. So basically how I got to this point is car's been leaking oil, drips make it to the ground, clean it all up, jack the car up, clean all the oil off. The oil pan is not seeping. There's nothing really below the block that is an issue. What looks to be happening is oil is trailing down from the block. I'll throw up a photo of where it's collecting, and it's trailing down. When you drive the car, of course, the wind just throws the oil everywhere and it makes it a mess. So initially I thought it was the oil pan or the rear main, until I did, you know, some more diagnosis. I replaced this high pressure Vanos line. I replaced the crush washers for it. I've done the oil filter housing gasket 4 times now, and the reason I did that, I used oil dye, the UV dye, and everything points to this guy leaking or something in this area. Now, I have had some people say that this could be a head gasket failure. I think that that's very well possible, but at the same time, there's no evidence that the head gasket is failing in this car. There's no residue between the head and the block. There's no trail of oil between the head and the block. There's nothing that would indicate a blown head gasket when this car operates. The car stays at temp. It doesn't misfire, like it runs good. For some reason, it just leaks oil. That is the main reason you guys have not seen more content on this car. There's a lot of other things that have changed with this car that I will go over at some point, whether it's in this video or not. But I'm gonna catch up with you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna continue to do research on this, and hopefully tomorrow I can do a little bit more investigation. Maybe I'll put it back together and try and spot the leak again, but stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Today I wanna clean this area best I can where it's leaking on the block, and then I'm gonna throw it back together. I'm gonna run the car, and I'm just going to try and identify where this leak is coming from. I'm honestly, at this point, it's hard to believe that it's anything with the oil filter housing and the mating surface itself. I'm gonna run the car, throw it back together, run it. I'm gonna do a little bit more investigation before I do that, but I'll put you guys on a tripod and we'll time lapse how long it takes me to get this manifold back on. I think it shouldn't take me any more than an hour, but we'll see. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll give you an update if I got one. All right, so I went ahead and put this guy back on. I reused the gasket because it is a brand new gasket and it had like 5 miles on it. So not sure what I'm expecting to change here, but I did go ahead and use some Scotch-Brite and sanded down very, very, very lightly this oil filter housing because it is cast aluminum, so you don't want to fuck anything up. And I did kind of clean off the surface of the block. One thing I did notice is even with the gasket, you put this on the dowels, it was kind of rocking back and forth a little bit. So I don't know if that's playing into it. The gasket's not fully seated, but that is as good as I could get it. So there's not a super specific torque spec that I was able to find. I did not dig it out of the Bentley manual, so I'm sure it's in there, but I torqued these to 18 foot-pounds. Make sure that you're putting the bolts in the right places if you are by chance doing an oil filter gasket as well. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get the manifold all hooked back up. I'm going to reconnect the Vanos line. Again, this is brand new, but I will be replacing the crush washers once more, torquing that to roughly 24 foot-pounds. And then we'll get this put all back together. I'll fire the car up. We'll see if anything's changed. Before I fire it up, I'll actually go underneath there, make sure everything is super dry so we can spot a leak pretty much immediately. So I'm gonna set you guys up on the tripod and we'll see how long this takes. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and start a stopwatch. One thing to note, I will not be putting the cowl back and all that crap because I'm sure that this is gonna come apart again very soon. So hopefully this is the last time and for some magical reason it just works this time. But I'm gonna leave all that stuff off to save me the headache the next time it has to come off. So I'll basically just be trying to get the car to an operating standpoint so we can test and make sure that this thing either works or doesn't work. Starting now. Alright, the video stopped, but that is 46 minutes, 37 seconds. I'm sure I could have done it a little bit quicker, but I was moving the camera around and stuff. So everything is pretty much put back here. Fuel line, brake booster, throttle body, TPS sensor, ICV is plugged in, intake manifold's plugged in, vacuum for the fuel breather or the fuel pressure regulator, fuel rail, injectors, coil packs, alternator, belt, and fan done. So I think that's pretty good timing. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit more. I'm gonna go under the car and clean up, and then we'll fire it up and see if this thing is still leaking. Alright, let's see how this thing does. Last minute quick little look. I think everything's plugged in and dealt with, and if it's not, we'll be quick to find out. Okay, here goes take number however many times I've done this gasket. Alright, let's hope that this thing doesn't leak. I'm going to continue to let it run for a little bit. I actually got to leave, so I'll run it for about 10 minutes, shut it off. Hopefully it doesn't leak anything to the ground, and then we'll be able to test for sure tomorrow. Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. A few days has passed. I'm here with the car. I just ran it up to temp, and seemingly it is not leaking nearly as bad as it was, but I do think that that is because this car is on jack stands and I'm not out driving it. For some reason, there's a ton of, it's just wet. The Getrag is wet, like the transmission is wet. There's a ton of condensation coming out of the mid pipe because it dumps at the mid pipe. So I don't really know where this car is at as in terms of what I'm going to do with it. I genuinely cannot determine the leak source. I just ran this thing up to temp with a flashlight pointed at the problematic spot where all the oil would gather in those galleys in the block. Car won't leak stationary after I do the oil filter housing, and then I go drive it and I park it and there's a shit ton of oil everywhere. I'm just not familiar enough with head gaskets and how that all works because I've never done a head gasket on a car. I did every other gasket on this engine, and now I'm kind of kicking myself for that. So whether it's the head gasket or not, I'm not sure what I want to do with this. I do want to keep this car because I honestly have so much money invested in it at this point that I can't see myself getting out of it. Regardless, I do think I will have something else in this chassis. But it sucks. It's not very motivating. I've put this whole car together. The only thing I want to do is get this thing out on track and beat the piss out of it, but I wouldn't feel good doing that knowing that something else is going on. If the car leaks oil, it just shouldn't leak oil. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Very well, somebody could have overheated this car a tremendous amount of times, and for some reason it's just not showing super clear indication of a blown head gasket. But again, that's why I think I'm going to start going to school for this kind of stuff, just because I wish I had a better understanding. Hopefully you guys can understand where I'm at with this thing and understand my frustration. I am not super motivated to work on this, but I do want to update you on the rest of the car because I do have some things I would like to share with you, some stuff that has not quite panned out due to this. So let's quickly go over that because this car has changed and I do plan to continue changing it. So I want to catch you guys up. So nothing's really changed back here aside from the badge that made everybody pissed off. It's upside down. It's a W at this point. So I did do coilovers on this car, and for the longest time this trunk was all torn apart. So now it's finally back together. Of course there's a bunch of crap in here. But I started building like a little roadside toolkit for this car. Not that it's going anywhere. But yeah, I started putting something together for that. So when the time comes, hopefully we'll kind of have like a pretty grab and go bag, I guess you could call it. Just with all the necessities. And here I actually have some lower mounts from Silver Suspension. These are their super extra low mounts for their coilovers. So I really feel terrible because I reached out to Silver Suspension for this car, and they were kind enough to send me out a set of coilovers, the extreme lows, at a substantial discount, and I promised to make them a you know, transparent and non-biased review of their product, and I would love to get that to you guys. However, given the turn of events, it's been pretty much impossible. I'm not trying to half-ass a video for them, so I do apologize for the delay. Anybody from Silvers, if you're watching this, I promise I'm not ghosting you guys. Just, yeah, again, given the circumstances, it's been kind of a pain. So at some point you guys will get that video. I will say honestly, and this is not me saying anything to say it, like, these coilovers are phenomenal. For the money, they totally beat my BCs on my M3, and I kind of wish I got those for the M3 and put the BCs on here. I guess I can still do that. So that might be the route that I go. But yeah, just know you guys will get a video on that. But huge shout out to Anthony at Silvers. He sent me out those lower mounts for free. Basically, I was like, I want to go lower, and he's like, I got you. He sent me out those mounts. That video is certainly in the cards, and I will get that out to you eventually. But yeah, car's dumped now. You guys just don't get to see it. Really nothing has changed on the interior apart from adding the magma rear seats, and in this lighting they look kind of green, but they're in there. The plan for the interior, of course, is to just continue swapping it. Again, it's just not on the priority list right now. I really need to figure this out so I can rip this car. I did get a set of style 32s for this car. I know I mentioned that in another video, but I would like to pull these off, sand them down, and refinish them. Drop down in the comments what you think. I've been thinking about going with white with these. I think that's kind of bold, but it might be a little rice, so I might just stick with the OEM finish and try and recondition them the best I can. I did the depot clear corners as well as the side markers, and that way there's no more amber on the car. That's how I prefer them. And yeah, I mean, apart from that, I think nothing has really changed. Again, I really wish I had more substance to this video, so I wish it was more exciting. But realistically, whether the head comes off of this engine or something entirely different comes in for a swap, who knows. But at this point, I do have this car plus another one that I need to get in the garage and kind of figure out my plan with. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Drop in the comments what you would do if you were in my shoes. Of course, I'm kind of jumping to conclusions here. It could just be something going over my head, but I have had some very knowledgeable friends come out here, and they would all agree that the leak is coming from the oil filter housing. It doesn't seem to be coming from the oil filter housing, so I don't know. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for understanding kind of the delay in content, but this was not anticipated. Hopefully you're enjoying the other content, the Duramax. It is coming up on summertime, so the M3 will be back on the channel a little bit more. But I do only have one spot, and this fucking car is taking all of the space. So I'll figure it out. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. Anything you do does help this channel grow, so it is sincerely appreciated. With all that being said, I will see you in the next video. Peace.